Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me. Today I am sharing another card that features some brand new products from the Essentials by Ellen line. I loved the idea of creating kind of this floral embellished Easter egg with a little bit of foiling on it. And so I am using the Elegant Eggs hot foil set from the Essentials by Ellen line. And I'll also be using the new Essential Eggs die set from the Essentials by Ellen line. There is also a hot foil set. I am not using those today, but I wanted to show you that all of these hot foil and die sets come with 2 full sheets of dies. Now the dies themselves not only cut the egg shape, but a beautiful thin frame as well. And I started out by thinking I was going to ink blend a panel for this card. And I quickly stopped myself and thought, I'm going to try a watercolor technique with my Catherine Pooler inks. So I'm working on a glass surface. I have it linked in the YouTube description below, along with a code where you can save 20% off if you are interested in that. I love this glass mat. And I just smashed my Catherine Pooler inks. This is Stone Blue and Hot Tub. Hot Tub is one of my favorite colors, onto this glass mat. And then I spritzed it with some water. Now, this is my first run, and it honestly did not turn out that great. And that's because I was using just a regular kind of hammer mill cardstock. I needed a watercolor cardstock for this. It needed it in order for the color to move on the cardstock, in order for it not to kind of just give way. So the first time didn't work out so well. It also needed a little more water. And so I'm coming in, I'm doing it again. I'm not giving up. I'm spritzing with a little more water, and I'm using watercolor cardstock this time, and I'm going to drop this paper right into the ink. I'm freaking out because I have ink and water on my hands, and I don't like my hands to be messy. I know that's funny, but I'm just kind of allowing the color to soak in, and then I flip this over, and it looks beautiful, but we're going to continue to layer it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly heat set this layer of color onto the cardstock. And then I am going to add a little more ink to my glass mat, spritz it with some more water, and then I'm going to tap this piece into this ink that's on my surface still. So you can see I have some of the old ink still, some newer ink, and I'm just going to press little areas into this wet ink. Now, Catherine Pooler ink is water reactive, and so it's great for this technique. Distress inks would also work really well for this technique. And if you wanted to try out a similar color combo in the distress inks, I would recommend by starting with the speckled egg. It's pretty similar to Hot Tub. And you can see I'm just pouncing this into the ink there. This is not a new technique by any means, but it's not one I do very often. And after I was satisfied with the results, I went ahead and heat set that. Now, my cardstock's pretty warped, and so I'm trying to flatten it out here, and I've brought out my Mink machine. I've placed my watercolor cardstock into some parchment paper, and I'm just going to run that through my Mink machine. Now, truth be told, this did not work that great. I still had quite a bit of warping. I'm going to be doing some hot foiling on this, so I wanted to be making sure that I had it kind of smooth and flatten out in order to give me the best results. I ran it through twice. It did okay. You could also try running it through your die cut machine without a die and see that usually flattens it out pretty well as well. So now I've grabbed this little line design. This is from the Elegant Eggs hot foil set from the Essentials by Ellen line. And I'm going to foil this design using some champagne cardstock onto this watercolor piece. Now it's completely dry. I did want to mention that. And because I'm using the Spellbinders Glimmer brand foil with my Gemini FoilPress, I have my FoilPress set on a medium heat. I set my timer to a minute, and once my timer was done, I removed the platform from the base and ran that through my Gemini Junior die cut machine. And you can see I have a beautiful foiled image on my cardstock. Now I am going to add a little speckled pattern onto this as well, because eventually I'll be die cutting this into an egg shape. So I am using the Glimmer Opal foil. This is a translucent iridescent foil. So it will show the color of the cardstock through the foil, but give it kind of an opalescent or an iridescent glow. So I used that speckle pattern and the opal foil. I did the same foiling process as I did before, and that pressed that into the cardstock. It gave it a lot of texture as well. Now I'm going to use one of the essential egg dies and die cut this piece. Now I intentionally did all of my foiling before my die cutting because I didn't want to try to line up all those hot foil pieces perfectly on my egg shape. Instead, I used the large piece of cardstock, foiled that, and then cut around it. It just made the job a little easier. Now I wanted to add some florals to this Easter egg, and so I am using a set from Spellbinders. This is the mini blooms and sprigs, I believe, and I've die cut it from some plain white cardstock. And now I'm just taking these and pressing them in to my ink pads. I'm using Catherine Pooler inks today. This is the Matcha color. Honestly, I just didn't want to get out a bunch of different cardstocks and die cut all of these pieces from different colors of cardstock. And if you only have white cardstock in your stash and you have some inks, this is a great way to color cardstock and get it to the colors that you're looking for. Because a lot of times when I build color palettes, I'm thinking about ink colors. And so if you have ink colors that you like, don't hesitate to just press your cardstock into those inks. I am using the Catherine Pooler Matcha ink, whipped honey, as well as sugared lavender, and that pink color is actually Concord and 9th Ballet Slipper. It is one of my favorite pinks ever. So now that I have all of these die cut and pressed into the various colors of ink, I'm going to just assemble a little arrangement on the right-hand side of my egg die cut. Now this is so much fun because it reminds me of those chocolate eggs with the little buttercream like embellishments on top of it. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? I'm not a chocolate person. I know that's crazy to think of. I don't like chocolate. But this totally reminded me of that. I did add a couple more white floral die cuts, and the berries on that little sprig, I actually pressed those into the Catherine Pooler Stone Blue ink. And I made that little arrangement on the side of the egg, and now I'm going to start building the other pieces of my card. So I'm starting with this lattice background die from the Essentials by Ellen line. I'm die cutting it from some Concord and 9th white cardstock. I die cut it twice. And then I'm going to use some liquid glue to adhere these layers together just to give it a slight bit of dimension. You can see I'm going really fast. I'm using my Barely Arts glue, which is one of my favorite glues. I'm going to layer these up and just kind of slide them into place to make sure they line up perfectly. And then I have this double layer that I can add to my card base. Now for the sentiment, I am using the Ears to Use stamp set. This stamp set, I love the font combinations. There's like this really beautiful script combined with the serif font, and I am going to heat emboss this sentiment onto some vellum. So I've prepped the surface with my powder tool. I inked up the stamp using some Versamark ink, and then I stamped it onto my vellum, added my gilded embossing powder from Brutus Monroe, and heat set that. Now I trim this down into a strip, and I am using my scissors to just fussy cut around the upper edge of this scripty font on the sentiment. I just thought it was kind of a fun way to cut the sentiment out. Quite honestly, I wish there was a die set that coordinated with the sentiment set because I love it so much, and I love the look of that fussy cut edge around the script. Now to add an additional layer to my egg, I went ahead and die cut this vine. It's from a Pink Fresh Studio. It's called the Curvy Leaves die set. I die cut that from some vellum, added that to the back of my egg just for a little more layering effect. I love to add vellum to cards, especially elegant cards like this. And then I added that onto my lattice background using some foam adhesive. And I'm also going to add that sentiment just below my egg. Now that everything's kind of assembled onto this lattice background, I'm going to take some more liquid glue, add it to the back of this lattice background, and then place that onto an A2 size card base that I created from some Hero Arts antique ivory cardstock. Now, I absolutely love the elegance of this Easter card. It is so beautiful. I think the watercolor background was definitely the way to go. And I love how the hot foil layers are kind of layered on top of this watercolor. Now, I'll be sharing a video soon all about hot foil layering. You'll want to stay tuned so that you can check it out because I have a lot of ideas for layering hot foil over stamped images, over inked backgrounds, as well as over other hot foils. So be sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you don't miss any of my paper crafting and card making video tutorials. I have a lot coming up. Now, as always, I will have links to the featured products used in this project in the description at YouTube. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there. Or you can head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. I'll have that linked below as well. Over there, you'll find more still shots, more information, and a complete list of supplies. Thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with me today. I am so glad you're here. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and I'd love for you to say hi to me in the comments below. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.